The Never Quit Podcast, sponsored and hosted by Quotes Jungle, with your host, Quote.
Welcome to another edition of the Never Quit Podcast. In the studio with me, I have Dr. Branch. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. For those who can't see you visually, explain to the people what you look like and what you want them to perceive you in with your voice.
That's a great question. I'm a very handsome African-American man with a family man, 2 daughters. I'm a beautiful wife. I'm a person who loves culture and love people. So if you look at me, I'm just a regular guy that loves to bring extraordinary things out of other everyday individuals.
Are you a father?
I am a father of 2 girls. Yeah.
Talk about how important fatherhood is to you.
I don't know if I knew what love was until I had my daughter, and to be able to cultivate that relationship and to guide her and to also for her to teach me. And when I got my second daughter, she taught me just as much. So yeah, fatherhood is it's that bread basket that just continue to give gifts, and I love it.
How important is education to you?
You're asking the good questions today, man. Education is it's a foundation piece. It's super important for me because I can tell you, growing up in the south side of Memphis, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for young African American men to see a different path, or see a different trajectory in their lives. And for me, the one consistent factor that has always been not only my life savior, but also the things that have given me the opportunity to not only expand my horizon, but to see a totally different world and different perspectives has been not only seeking education, but understanding the importance of education and how it can be transformational. What
are your thought process and your personal opinion on people who homeschool their kids?
I think, one, I'm not the type to tell anyone how they should raise their child. I can tell you as a parent, you should know your child and their characteristics and their value set to know what they need. However, I can tell you, being a product of public schools my entire life, I believe in a public school system. I believe that there are certain skills and things in which students get the opportunity to explore, to learn, to cultivate, but also to have struggle that you can get in a traditional school setting that you probably can't get in a homeschool setting. So I definitely think it's a decision that have to be made very strategically, but I'm a strong advocate for public school education.
A lot of people aren't fans of the public schools, and I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. What is the biggest negativity that you think you're fighting for to justify why they might feel that way?
Here in Colorado, we're ranked number 47 in the nation in per pupil funding. A lot of people don't understand what that truly means, but it really means that we're in the bottom 3% of all the other states in the union on how we fund education. That's substantial. That's something that I think now here in 2023, we're at a stage where we have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and say, yeah, we realize being in the state of Colorado, we can continue to attract amazing talent all over the country and to pull people in, but we're not trying to invest in our K-12 public education to grow our own talent here. I think at some point, we're close to that critical mass where we have to say, the buck is about to stop here. It's important to, elevate the education here in the state of Colorado. Hadn't shifted the funding since, the 70s and 80s, where now we're seeing the ripple effect of, we're not providing the same resources, the same opportunities as, other states that are really in the top 15, the top 25%. As far as meeting the per pupil cost of what it needs now to educate kids in a 21st century learning setting.
Let's talk about year 2009. What comes to your mind when I say that year?
2009. 2009. Oh, that's the year I came to Colorado. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, man. I had been teaching in Memphis for about 13 years, and I loved the work. I was coaching, and I was having a blast, but it got to a point where I lost a couple student, and I made a promise to my wife that I was going to make a change after I finished my master's at that time, and she said that, all right, you got this master's out the way. You promised me that we're going to move to some other place, and she threw out some cities. She said San Diego or Denver, and I was like, well, I've been a Bronco fan since like Techno Bowl, so I'm gonna pick Denver, knowing that she's probably gonna think it's cold, and we'll just push this off. 8 months later, 3 months right before the school year start, she said, "Oh, by the way, you're moving me to Colorado." I was like, "What?" And I literally moved her cross country in 3-4 months, and proceeded to I stayed behind a little while because I was still under contract, and a year later I came up shortly thereafter and ended up teaching 1 year. I taught 1 year at Marbello High School. It was amazing high school. Coming from Memphis, man, that culture and the pep rallies there. I've never been in a school where it was so loud. It was so much school spirit. I wasn't coaching. I was just teaching. I was an African American gentleman teaching AP, human geography and economics, and I loved it, man. And I only stayed there 1 year. They ended up closing that school actually 2 or 3 years later, I believe. But I got pulled up and started doing school leadership in DPS.
When you hear the word unity, what comes to your mind?
Like one vision, one purpose, connectivity, a direction. Yeah, that's what I think about when I hear unity.
We talked a little bit off camera, so I don't want to go into it too much detail, but I'm going to just ask you directly. Why do you think it is that some people who identify as our culture can continue and stay consistent with some things?
I think it's really difficult to not only stay consistent, but to have the bandwidth and follow through to be able to sustain. I think, when you speak into our culture, the last maybe 2 years, I've been really looking into the mental health strategies and support, dealing with the microaggressions that individuals deal with and navigate daily. I think there are a lot of competing things out there that makes it, especially for African American men, difficult to stay the course. Things that most people just don't experience. To navigate it, even here in Colorado, it's not what they say equal is not always equal. So providing the right support is one thing, but also I spoke to staying the course, being really intentional, cultivating community. Being a part of a tribe where you feel that you're not only being cultivated, but you're being included and you're growing. That's hard when there's not a lot of community that speaks to a high level of collaboration and unity.
So you've been doing a lot of work for the past 15 years. I know a lot of people don't like to boast themselves or make it seem like they're talking about themselves. That's why I created platforms like this. Mm-hmm. I would like you to share with the audience and the people some of the things that you've been doing leading up to now.
Yeah. A couple of years, the last 3 years, I was working with an organization named College Track. Before that, I was doing school turnaround in DPS and decided, hey, I wanted to get out a little bit and focus on my education and my family. So I started a doctorate and went to work for College Track. It's an amazing organization. I was the site director in the Aurora site and really did amazing things with them. And then I transitioned over to Colorado Alpha Dream Foundation. I was there the last 2 years supporting 3rd through 8th grade after school enrichment and social emotional development work. And man, I got to tell you, it was the first time I had the opportunity of working with youth and families on the west side of Denver that age. And it really grew me up to see a lot of the challenges in which families across the entire Denver metro area are facing. And I think even within that time, in the middle of COVID, I had you and I were talking about this earlier, my own experience around mental health where it became clear and apparent to me. And I was always a person I thought I had my stuff together. I had an episode where I was dealing with some chronic depression. And when my doctor told me that, I was like, nah, doc, you can't be serious. But he was right. And it took my 12-year-old daughter to tell me that. And so coming out of that, I said, you know what? There's got to be something I can do to help other men who look like me, because there aren't spaces where I felt safe to talk about this. There weren't people within my family, or there weren't people within my schools or within my job. There was nowhere for me to turn. It was a complete isolation. So I decided to create a nonprofit called CMOC, the Colorado Men of Color Collaborative, that focused on improving mental health for minority men, social mobility, and career exploration. So I'm living in my purpose right now. I'm doing that work while at the exact same time I took on a new post in Denver Public Schools as the principal of Robert L. Smith STEAM Academy. And man, I got to tell you, I love going to work every day. I feel that we're building something that's going to last and be sustainable. But more importantly, I get to help kids who look like me really navigate a very difficult and challenging world, and to give them the confidence and endurance. And they already got the grit, but the direction to say that they're not only enough, but they're going to achieve.
Talk to the people and tell them how important you feel like addressing depression is, and some of the things that stopped you from coming forward.
You know, for me, it's some of those things around, insecurity. My father didn't raise me that way. As a matter of fact, I wish I would have said, "Hey, Dad, I'm feeling a certain type of way." And the first thing he would have said, you need to toughen up, right? We don't talk about that. I don't want to hear about that. So not only fighting that stereotype that it's not normal, also dealing with the masculinity thing, right? Not being confident enough in myself where I feel that this is something I felt comfortable talking about with my wife, or my pastor, or anyone else for that matter. But I tell you, what I discovered is that there aren't a lot of preventative systems and structures around supporting mental health for men in general, nevertheless men of color. And that really was me going through that experience gave me the strength and the foundation to do something about it, because I didn't see anything, and I had been in this field for a while now, right? And I gotta always remember one of my basketball coaches saying, he said, you see something and you got to do something about it, because if you don't do something about it and you know better, then now you're not helping anybody. And it just so happened, I had a good relationship with a brother named Jeremy Eddy, who also was kind of navigating some similar things. And man, we just started working together, building an organization for the community, serving the community from the community that's not built up on one man or another, but is built up on the collective effort of everyone.
Share with the people 3 people, dead or alive, that you look up to.
Oh man, that's a good question right there. 3 people that I look up to. Dead or alive? All right, I'm going to blow you away with this one. So the first person I'm going to say is Prince. All right? So just stick with me now. When you think of innovation, creativity, he's one of the most sampled artists to this day. But he also was a trendsetter. He did things his way. And that's the thing that I appreciate most about his music. You can listen to a Prince song today or tomorrow, and I swear to you, it sounds like it was just made. There's something about genius and creativity that when it's done in a right way and it's done from the heart, it transcends time, Now my next person would be Dr. King. I think that towards the end, after reading his autobiography twice, I think he knew his time was coming to an end. I think he also understood that he was giving the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good of a people, but not just a people, but the greater good of a nation that is imperfect in its finest. That's a very humbling perspective to read through, right? Being a Memphis native, these are things that I learned being brought up in the history books, being in a city with such a rich history, but also very segregated in racist history, right? That balances the great ribs with the great music and the blues. You get an appreciation from someone like Dr. King because he often did those things that were uncommon to make them common, not just for himself, but for future generations that would be after him. And I think the last person, man, I got to say my father. My father was a truck driver for 38 years. And you want to talk about a man that put his kids before himself. He had a high school education, and he would come home every day. And my dad would sit down on the couch. He'd put it on WWE. He had these boots. And, man, these boots would be so sticky, brother. And they smell so bad. But myself and my brothers, we always took off those boots. And we always brought him a bush, right? Because that was his whole thing. That would make his whole evening. What I learned from my father is just hard work. In the summertime, man, he'll pick up lawnmowers off the street in some of the richer neighborhoods and bring them back home, and we'll have to pull them apart and put them together until we can, get 2 or 3 riding lawnmowers here or a tiller to till a garden over here. And in the summertime, man, it was work. It's almost like, to a degree, it was cruel and unusual punishment. One year he had us, we were doing tiling roofs, changing roofs. All right, you want to talk about some back-breaking work. You're 13, you're 14, you're pulling off shingles and you're putting up shingles in the middle of the summer in the South. Oh, man. And then you leave there, you spend the afternoon, you're tilling 3 or 4 gardens. So I grew up riding tractors and doing construction work and doing repair work in the homes. That man taught me the value of an education, because I knew then, if I don't get an education, I know what it's like to work. So by the time I was 16, I was set on, I'm not only going to college, I'm going to thrive in college, because, man, my father, he made way, and he would always, we start 5 o'clock in the morning, we go to McDonald's, and you get hot cake and sausage. But after that hot cake and sausage for the next 8 hours, you was his, and you'd be thankful to get anything at the end of the day. But you learned the value of work. You learned the value of having a gritty disposition about yourself and character, and doing it the right way, when so often a lot of brothers my age who didn't have fathers, they didn't have the luxury of having someone show them the opposite side of what the streets were also trying to get me to do,
What would you say is the biggest difference, besides the obvious, from coming from Memphis, Tennessee to Denver, Colorado?
Oh, man, it's, Memphis is predominantly a black city. When I first moved here, there were a couple pockets, right? You had, Aurora. You still do have Aurora. You had 5 Points, Whittier community before a lot of the gentrification. You have Montbello. Back then, to still have a pretty large population of African Americans. Now you just don't see a collective community of African Americans in Denver. Whereas, 2 weekends ago, I went down to the Southern Heritage Classic, where there's still a significant, thriving black culture. Also, segregated in its own ways too, right? But there's still it's a city that's still predominantly African American. You have those larger opportunities to engage with, like, the HBCU classics and the museums and things that really wrap around the history. I really do think that that's something I would like to see here, though. The school being located in the Skyline community, Park Hill community. People tell me all the time that Colorado is considered and called the Harlem of the West. And, in doing my research and my studies, there's just a lot of amazing history, a lot of amazing black history in Colorado that I would love to see not only thriving, but to be able to educate our youth moving forward.
Where we are right now, let's talk about some of the difficulties that you're having facing running a school, because everybody probably thinks it's just butter, laid back, it's a easy situation. Talk about some of the difficult times that you're going through right now trying to get a school together.
Yeah, man, it's you and I were talking a moment ago, and I told you the hardest job in America is a high school principal, and I will bet that on anything. The hardest pieces is really setting the vision of what is possible, especially with a school like mine, grounded in Black excellence, around an HBCU concept, showing not only the youth but also the families that the future and the possibilities. Everything is right there. It is right there for the taking. So driving that direction and that mission and that vision. Some of the hard things navigating right now is, the majority of the teachers at my school can't live in the community that the school is located in because they can't afford to live there. So you taking that into account where, now they got to drive an hour or 45 minutes in the suburbs because that's a place they can afford rent to teach in the middle of the city. That's a challenge, right? And also being intentional with the program design. You don't want to keep up with the Joneses, but you want to create a program that's attractive, that's going to have some momentum behind it, but also speaks to this ever-changing industry that we're seeing in Colorado. Solar is thriving, electronic batteries is thriving. We got Space Force in Colorado Springs, right? So aerospace is on the come up. So being really intentional with program designs and finding adults who have the experiences and the background and the certifications to be able to teach those courses in a way that it has a little swag. Kids they aren't what we used to experience when we were coming up in school. They want to be challenged. They want to understand real life relevance and connection to the content that they're learning. But more important than anything, what they want most? They want teachers that are going to be truthful. They want truth. And that's a very delicate thing to do in a society now that values, and don't take this the wrong way, but in a lot of ways values participation trophies rather than first, second, and third place. I try to find and strike a balance between the two because I think if you're failing forward, then you're learning, right? But when students aren't allowed to fail at all, I think we're sort of diluting the very fabric of what makes America America.
For those who aren't familiar, why don't you tell them the name of your school and the role that you play in it, and how your school is formatted for those who you want to convince to subscribe to that school?
Absolutely. Yeah, Dr. Fernando Branch, interim principal at Robert F. Smith STEAM Academy. For those who are interested in a school that's built on Black brilliance and an HBCU concept of family and community, the school is going to be designed around 4 strategic pathways. Those pathways are called academies. So when students come in 9th grade all the way through 12th grade, they will have to decide if they want to be a part of the health science pathway, the aerospace engineering pathway, the business entrepreneurship pathway, and the last one is I can't think of it right now. That was a good question. What's the
science, technology, engineering, and medicine?
Yeah. When they choose their pathway, the intent behind the pathway is that we offer concurrent enrollment courses, so where they're getting high school as well as college credit. So when they graduate in 4 years, they not only get the opportunity to have an internship in the field of their choice that they declare, but they're also graduating with associate degrees. We feel that if we're going to make systematic and economic change in our community, that if the district is saying that if we provide the right courses where you can get concurrent enrollment course credit, we want our kids to be able to graduate and have 2 years under their belt already done before they touch a college campus. We think that can be transformational.
What would you say is the biggest difference between your school and a public school that has a big classroom?
Everything. I tell people all the time, don't just take my word for it. Come and visit. Come and see it. a good friend of mine, Kenneth Crawley of the Crawley Foundation. He came by, and that's a plug, by the way, Kenny. I know you're doing great work. That brother came by today, man, to just check out what was going on. He said he was amazed at the intentionality that we put into the design of the school, but also the ratio, you know. A math class with 10 students, you got one math teacher record teaching, and you got another math teacher supporting with one-on-one instruction. That's not the type of environment that you even get in like a private school in some cases. So we're a school right located in the middle of the city that's really providing individualized attention and individualized instruction that, a lot of people are paying $30,000 a year to get.
Talk about what you went into in designing this and some of the quotes on the wall in the building and the color scheme, if you know that information.
The color scheme, I'm not a big Langston University fan, but it looks just like Langston, which is an HBCU, obviously. A lot of the intentionality and the design, a lot of credit goes to the former principal. I think she really put her heart and design into it. For me, coming into it, especially when you move from one building in far northeast to a fairly newer building, not new, it's in the Barrett Elementary campus, but a revitalized Barrett Elementary campus. A lot of my work was to figure out the functionality. Does it make sense? Does this particular office versus the classroom make sense? So the structural changes in operations. But they did a really good job with the schematics initially, and I think a lot of what my work now is into defining the culture. Like what is an HBCU culture for a high school? Being really intentional with how we're building that and how you're going to be able to see it and feel it is what I'm sort of creating now in the school.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but name some of your staff members.
Miss Keisha, one of our amazing secretaries. Miss Harris, my principal, my assistant principal. Man, we have an amazing dean of instruction, Dr. Coleman, and Mr. Vaden, our dean of students, as well as Mr. Gunn in social studies. A talented group of people that we were able to really recruit and bring in, and that's a big difference in how you set trends and also define culture moving forward in a new building.
What's your vision seeing the school that you have formatted right now 5 years from now?
I want to be the #1 high school in the state of Colorado. I want to have an academy model that speaks to the building and the bonding between industry and K-12 education so that students know what they're getting. But I really want to empower and live in that focus around Black excellence and become a national model of how we can do what I truly believe we can do here in Denver, which is close the opportunity gap. You're from New Orleans. There are other places, and me being from Memphis, there are other places where it's not as simple as closing the opportunity gap or the achievement gap, right? It's poverty, it's crime, it's industry. Colorado is a unique place. I get a chance to go home every day and I see mountains, I don't take that for granted. And I know how that's a de-stressor for me. And I really think we can do something with this particular school that might not can be done in a lot of places. And if we can do it, I really believe it can serve as a national model.
What do you think the biggest challenges are that will stop you from doing that?
Biggest challenges. Now, that is a good question right there. Can you give me some context?
Let's say that you wanted to be #1, but you can't get the test scores there for the students. You can't get the attendance. You can't get everybody to believe.
Oh.
You can't get everybody to be consistent. Everybody's putting the pressure on you and making it your fault.
I think the biggest challenge right now is when we made the move from far northeast, we didn't carry as many students, so we're a little smaller. But within that being small gives us a very unique opportunity to define our academic success and to really drive rigor, and I think that's happening. I think the other challenge is really becoming a STEAM school, and what does that look like in the middle of the city? right? Being really intentional with partnership developments, some organizations like Lockheed Martin, Arrow, Electronics. Are we working with local companies? Are we working with engineers? Are we bringing those expertise and experiences into the classroom with our students? And not having necessarily the staff in year one to be able to cultivate those relationships, that's also a challenge because our kids deserve that. And that's what it's what they say, you see not, you be not, you don't become that. We want to give them the examples of what we want them to become. And that's hard when you're starting a little bit smaller to be intentional with growth. And, you mentioned the last one. The last one is really being intentional with your assessments and your test scores. I'm pretty confident, though, with the current size and the amazing staff that we got, that if I do my job right, then this time next year, we should be saying that our school has jumped at least 1 or 2 performance bands, which would be, that's the expectation. That's the pressure that I think I put on myself. That's the part of this work that you take the good with the bad, but that's what we do. That's what I do. And if we do that well, then I think the school would thrive.
I'm going to take it back a little bit. Let's talk about what 1619 strong means to you.
Oh, man, you really went back. Yeah. So 1619 strong. That was that came right out of George Floyd. I was talking to Kenosha Wade, and she's a graphic design artist, and she was like, "Branch, you usually like do something when you see stuff like this," and she kind of put it on my heart. She was like, you're an artist. How do you want to capture like this moment? And as I was thinking about that, this whole, the movement around the critical race theory stuff, and which, by the way, critical race theory is a concept that is fairly extensive, meaning most college graduates can't conceive that the pedagogy and the understanding around that. And I've never seen it being taught in a K-12 setting, just a caveat. But I thought, man, as an African American, for me, people who I've known have been strong, and a lot of my family, I was one of the first ones to ever go to college since the inception of us being in the New World, right? I was like, man, isn't that powerful that, since 1619, folks who look like me have been strong. And that's when it just hit me. It was like, how about 1619 strong? So we had like a little design that we created, and it's simplistic in its very form that, hey, here's a group of people that, over 400 years have endured time and time again the challenges that have been associated with the establishment, and they're still standing, they're still thriving, and they're still strong.
Couple personal questions. When was the first time that you are identified as a black man outside of your family member or somebody else?
For me, the first time was I was probably 17. Yeah, wasn't even in America, believe it or not. Yeah, I was outside of Medina in Morocco, where a brother saw me. I said, brother. Islamic brother saw me walking down the street, and he said, assalamu alaikum. I was like, oh, alaikum salam. And he said, American? I said, yeah, American, right? And we proceeded to have a conversation, just a random stranger, man. And in that conversation, he said, you seem like you're a good fella. But you ever thought that there's privilege in being a black man in America? And it blew me away. Blew me away, because it was the very first time where I kind of got checked for a minute there, right? The black man growing up in the South. I never thought of myself of having privilege. But after having that conversation with him, it was eye-opening, because he was right. He was looking at my experience and my existence through a global lens, and I have yet to have had that experience. And he was right.
Very vulnerable question. Do you have any regrets as a man?
Any regrets? Yeah, man, I think, I wish I would have had more male mentors tell me when I was, I think in my most youthful years, 14 to 18, that I need to focus on them books. I needed to really dig in deep to that concept of scholar versus athletics, because I just knew for sure I was going to the league. And I was a good athlete, don't get me wrong. But I just think about all the time that I spent in practices while, some of my peers, and don't get me wrong, I think I turned out all right. But if I would have invested just a little bit more time in my studies, how much further I think I would have possibly become, and how that would have probably streamlined my trajectory a lot sooner than me taking a more difficult path.
That explains why you spend so much energy on trying to bring unity amongst labeled black men, correct?
Yep.
What do you feel the issue is that can't make that happen? I know I asked that question again, but I'm just trying to punch in on it because we were talking off camera. You've met so many successful men here in massive numbers. Why can't we just make it click?
That's a question that I've been working on since me being here in Colorado, because I've never been in an environment where I've come across so many other brothers who are just as intelligent or brilliant, quite frankly, across multiple fields and industries. It's not just health. It's not just education. It's not just law. It's not just engineering. It's not architects. They're all over the place, right? And, part of the work we did with CMOC is to create an organization that we hope could do that. But even within that, we're still, we're not having the impact as far as the unification and the collaboratives that we will want to really be intentional and strategic with unifying people and bringing people together with shared experiences. But it doesn't deter me, because I feel that that's the work. I feel that there's a lot more that we can achieve, that we can do. And I think maybe it's just a matter of having the conversations like this to allow us to be able to do that and to cultivate a greater appreciation to get closer towards it.
Without thinking about it, name me 3 people that I don't know that I need to meet.
All right. I can tell you there's a brother who just came in with Metro State. He leads the, what's the name of the program? The Mile High, African American Male Education Program. What is it called?
Africana Studies?
No. What is it? Jeremy gonna get me for this.
I know the editor.
It'll come to me, but I get that one. Palika Houston.
Okay. I know Palika Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to TJ, so yeah.
Oh, you know Palika.
Yeah, I had a horrible experience with saving his brother with the Denver Police Department years ago.
You gotta tell me that one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's an amazing brother doing amazing work with Big Brothers Big Sister Colorado.
Okay. So you owe me 2 more.
Oh man, he owed me account of that. Jeremy Eddy, chief, not chief, but he's in acquisitions for Denver Public Schools. That guy does amazing work. You know Dedrick Sims?
No.
Dedrick Sims leads the Sims Fayola Foundation that's doing amazing work as well, working exclusively with young men and also men of color in the city.
If you had to be trapped in a room with one person for 3 hours and had to communicate with them, who would that person be?
Oh, man. Nah, this is going to freak you out, but I tell you, I had a chance this summer to participate in the Aspen Ideas Conference up in Aspen.
Okay.
And I had a chance to meet Chelsea Clinton. Dude, Chelsea Clinton is a badass, bro. She was by far like one of the most studious, but also well-informed dictionaries on she was really talking about women mortality, and she knew the data. She knew the women mortality rate, the disposition and the differences in equity between women of color and white women and all other subgroups. But she knew all the context. I just felt like in meeting her, man, that she was kind of a sponge. She had like that fire like her mom, but she had the charisma like her dad. Where just being locked in the room with her for like 3 days, I think I could come out of that and have some information to really do some incredible things on both sides, where I think it would be beneficial and also productive.
What's your favorite food, but it shouldn't be your favorite food?
Oh, bro, you're going to get me in trouble, man. My wife is not going to like this. Oh, man. Man, I'm a sucker for a McDonald's.
I got you.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Chick-fil-A and fries, bro. Those McDonald's fries, I know that stuff is not good for me, but every now and then I just got to get just one fry, man.
You exercise at all?
I do. I don't, not as much as I used to. I noticed you got this gym in the back that's kind of impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about coaching. You said you coached a little bit. Let's talk about one of your most memorable coach moments.
Yeah, I'll give you one. All right. So I coached track for about 11 years, inner city, Sheffield High School, Memphis, Tennessee. And after the first 2 years, you build a track program, you got to have a solid core. I was blessed, man, that I had a core of about 5 to 7 young men that were amazing. They just were committed to the sport. And then you start to do the mentorship pieces, right? Because it's not just a team, it's a mentorship component. After that third year, man, we were in the state tournament every year, and we were always up for contention. So usually by year 3, we started winning some of the individuals, the championships in here and this, and we would win the championship in this relay or in this race. But coming towards the end of those years, we were literally in the top 5 every year to contend for the state championship. I can remember Cordero Golden. This young man ended up being an All-American at MTSU. He was coming off the basketball field, and never had ran track before a day in his life. But he could jump out the gym. And I told him, I said, man, look, and I coach basketball too, but I said, hey, you're a sophomore now. If you come and run track or jump for me, I can guarantee you're going to get a full scholarship. I can guarantee it. And so the first year did okay. And the second year, how you have the board you jump from, right? Well, this particular kid, we were always training from the second board. And I told him, I said, at NCAA, you got some athletes that jump from the third board. And I said, I think you could jump from the third board. And he was like, nah, I don't know about that Mr. Branch. That's really far. I don't think I can make it to the pit. So we went to one of the neighborhood track stadiums, and I told them, I said, all right, we're going to go ahead and do some practices here today. And I knew intentionally that they didn't have a board marker in the pit. So I took some white wrapping tape, and I taped it to the third board, which is the collegiate board. And I said, all right, let's go ahead and start practice. But I didn't tell him. So the first time he did it, he almost killed himself. He was like, wait a minute, this is a little further than what I'm used to doing. And I said, no, I measured it off, Cordero. I know it's right. He tried it again. He said, well, all right, let me get my composure. Let me get myself together. He tried it that second time, and he got to the pit. He tried it the third time. He was jumping deeper in the pit, similar to what he was jumping on the second line. Then the next track meet, track is one of those sports that it only take you to run the time one time or to jump that distance one time, and it's marked. That's your PR, right? That's legit. I mean, you probably gonna get a scholarship. And that next track meet, man, this kid jumped, I don't remember, it was a 43.5 or 44.8, something like that. But it set a PR in West Tennessee, and from that point on, every coach in that part of the country was recruiting him because he believed in himself. He did it. And I would I told him, his mother, I said, I told you he was going to do it. He was a great kid. He had a great GPA. He just needed a little confidence. So being really intentional and good coaches are just like good teachers. Sometimes you you got to figure out what that niche is that's going to allow that child or that adult to be the absolute best version of themselves. And I think that I try to spend every day of my life to do that in some capacity.
Awesome. If you could tell the people where they can reach you and how they can get a hold of you to get to the school.
You go to Robert F. Smith STEAM Academy at dps.net. You can reach me there. You can also get in touch with me on the school website. The school is also on Twitter, on Facebook. Just type in Robert F. Smith STEAM Academy, and you can pull us up. Instagram as well. Readily available. Always looking to network and collaborate with community members and to do the best for our kids.
And you said people can come see it as a tour. How do they do that?
Absolutely. If they want to come and tour, they can shoot me an email at Fernando_Branch@dpsk12.net. They can also reach out to the school directly through social media and request a tour, and we'll gladly oblige.
This has been another episode of the Never Quit Podcast with Dr. Branch, sponsored by Quotes Jungle. Appreciate your time. Look us up on all the social networks. Appreciate your time, Dr. Branch.
Thank you, brother.
Always. Peace.